Yeah, Elaine, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show.
Hi, thanks so much.
You are welcome. You know what? Before I get to you, my producer here did want me to give out the number again, 844, because we got a line open. It looks like 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774 to get on the program. And also to remind y'all, I remind you, go check out boundaries.me. Go check out boundaries.me. All the stuff we talked about necessary endings before and all that, it's all on there. You can go find it. Check it out. Okay, so back to Elaine. Welcome to the program. How can I help you?
Thank you. I was driving in my car this morning and thinking about your ant farm story. Ironically, you talked about it
Oh,
today, so I
really?
figured I'm going to call. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, have you ever
So that was
noticed
kind of
how
fun.
driving in your car, you're going a long trip and those mile markers, remember the old mile markers?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They just keep going by, keep going by.
A lot of good
Then
thinking in the car by
all of a
yourself.
sudden, I'm in Dallas, 1 mile marker at a time. That's the way it
One
works.
at a time.
One at a time.
Well, my question is, how do how do I overcome basically a lifetime of fear, regret, and it dawned on me a couple days ago. The fear is really fear of success. So where does that come from? Parental criticism. They weren't all bad, but there was a lot of criticism there. And
Oh,
I've
wait a minute. Wait,
spent
whoa,
a
whoa,
life,
whoa, whoa, whoa. Stop. Hold on
yeah,
a second. Now, normally, there's a straight line between parental criticism and a fear of failure. Okay.
hmm
Now, but you said parental criticism and fear of success. So when you would succeed, were you punished for succeeding?
it was always about you think you're better than us just because
Okay.
you went to college. You think you're
There you go.
smarter.
Okay.
You know
Great.
more
Perfect.
that type of thing. So it could be job success, it could be financial success, and even health and keeping a healthy weight was always criticized. Um, so I'm
How
50.
could you hurt
So
me like that by having a good life?
exactly.
Yeah. How about that?
No, it's yeah, and not just towards me, but comments about friends of the family and other people, and
Oh,
oh, they
sure.
make
Anybody.
it's just
Anybody.
constant criticism. So um, I struggle with the regret. And I've just spent
What
a
do you
lifetime telling myself I don't matter. And I regret that I didn't, um, I've had a good career, but I didn't advance like I know I could have. My finances are there, they're fine, but I could have saved more. My weight needs work. I could have done better. So everything is always could have done better. But how do I overcome this regret and move on? I've done lots of counseling over the years, so I know I'm better where I am now than if I had not done any of that.
Yeah.
But I just can't get over. It's like a low grade fever constantly in my life. And how do I get over that fever?
So the low grade fever is mostly about the regret.
Yes.
Okay. Um, Let me tell you why I'm kind of like taking a moment here thinking about this. Because I think before you get into that, I think that there are some boundary clarifications that need to happen in your wiring. Now, this started with your parents, okay? It
Mm-hmm.
started with your parents, and you've got this boundary fusion where it's not clear of being separate from them in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what's their problem and what's yours. All right. And I
Mm-hmm.
want you to really, really think about this. Okay. Because you got to get some of that badness out of your own head and put it back in their circle. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, their problem was basically something called envy. Okay.
Mm.
People, people that have a lot of envy, they do something called spoiling. And when they see something good that somebody else has, they'll find some way to either envy that and have to have it for themselves, or if they can't, then they'll spoil it in some way. They can't appreciate it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And they judge other people for their successes and think that successful people are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen the dynamic of envy, going for millennia, actually.
Mm-hmm.
One of the great stories in the Bible is where Jesus hired a bunch of people throughout the day, and he started this one at noon, and this one at 1, and this one is 2, and he said the owner of the vineyard, um, got to the end of the day, he hired some at the end of the day, and there were a few that got hired at the end of the day, and then he went and paid everybody, and he paid some that he hired at the end of the day. He paid them the same amount he paid the ones that have been working all day.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that have been working all day got mad and said, "Wait, that's not fair. That's, they have more than me," and all this. And he turned to him and he basically said, "Wait a minute, you agreed to pay to work for it. This was your choice. You did this." And basically, at the end of the day, he said, "Isn't it okay to do with what I want to, with what is my own? I can pay them whatever I want. And if I want to be generous," he said, "here's the deal. Is the problem here that my generous heart, or is it your envy?" And see, whatever reason, your parents, they weren't taking responsibility for the choices that they had made in whatever they were doing or not doing, or school or not school, or limited, or living with that, or finding new options if they couldn't, or whatever it was. And sometimes they might have had the deck stacked against them, and that's understandable too. But the point is
Mm-hmm.
that that's their life, and they're not going to help their life by making your life bad. So,
Mm.
what you have to do is get it clear in your head, the mom and dad in your head. You've got to say to them, "Mom, I'm sorry that your life was disappointing to you, but I'm not sinning against you by doing what I want to do with mine." I want that
Okay.
feeling. I want you to get that feeling deep into your soul before you try to go out and address the rest of your life. Or you're going to have this nagging kind of fear of success. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When all of us have people around us that do better than us in some way, we're supposed to celebrate that, not envy it and judge it. So I just want you to really, really think about that. That if somebody's not happy with their lot and what they're choosing to do and how they're doing it, then we can help them, we can empathize with them, we can give them opportunities, but we're not going to feel bad about what we're doing with ours.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
when they judge it, that's their problem. Okay. Now, having said that, you're also not loading onto the balance sheet when you look back and you say, "I shoulda, coulda, woulda." You're not loading onto that balance sheet. Also, you had a lot of stuff to work through. You had a lot of voices in your
Okay.
head. I could have saved
Right.
more. Well, you probably could have saved more also had you had parents that were teaching you how to save and value your future and modeling that and showing you how to do it instead of having to fight for that little corner of your life. See, a lot of times when people judge themselves, they don't judge themselves with a full balance sheet. They think, "I should have done more." Yeah, but don't you remember you were overcoming PTSD along the way? Or don't you remember it took you 30 years to get out from under the fog? Or don't you remember? So let's have a little, let's have a little sobriety. This is the word the Bible uses in Romans 12. It says, "Don't think more highly of yourself than you ought." So whenever we
Mm-hmm.
look at ourselves sometimes and we look backwards and we have regrets, sometimes that's valid in that I was perfectly able to do A and I did B, and that cost me. And the loss is all there is. You lost whatever you got. Your savings is here. It should have been there. Okay, that gap there, that's what you lost. Cry about that and move on. But probably along the way, I guess would be, judging from how you've talked and who you are and what you've worked on, I bet you did pretty much all along the way the best you could. I would bet that. But
you're right.
You got crippled. You got your leg broken. Does that leave you, and does that say it's okay to stay there now? No, let's go change the future. But let's forgive you, if that's the right word, which it's not. But let's accept, you know what, you did okay given all that. You're not hating the world. You're not envying the world. You've kept a pure heart. You're above board. Now, could you have done more had you been a different person with a different life? Yeah, probably so. Go to the parable of the talents. They all start with different stuff, and he doesn't judge one against the other. He judges each against what they were given. So I would deal with the regret a little bit along that way too. And then I'd say, okay, but here I am where I am. Now, what would I like to do with the rest of my life without any fear of success? And then I would go do it.
Okay.
Now, I've talked a lot. Right. You talked to me. Did that make sense?
No, you hit it. It's I feel like I've done the best that I could, and it just has not been enough. And that's where the regret comes from.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop. Hasn't been enough for whom? What objective standard?
That's a good question.
It's such a great question. Because see, that is not a real question. Or that is a psychological structure that lives with you. And the numbers will always change because the structure is what you got to deal with. So you have a thing in your head that says, whatever I do, it's not enough. And so you could go do more, and that structure's still there where it says it's not enough. People that don't feel like they ever do enough never feel like they do enough, no matter how much they do. You never can be enough when you're on that system. So I want you to get your parents' voice out of your head that nothing you can do is going to make them happy. Say, okay, I'm giving up enough. Forget what's enough. I'm going to do what I want and what I can, and I'm going to enjoy that.
All right.
What would be enough, by the way?
I'm not even sure. I have to think and see what dream that might be, because I don't even know what that would be.
Perfect.
But there's probably something there.
And let's make it objective. Okay? Let's make it objective. We have financial goals, and we figure, okay, when I have this much and this many choices, and I can do this or whatever, that's enough. That's enough. When I have these goals and I can do that, okay, that's enough. We find contentment. There are other areas where in passion and challenge, there's never enough because we always want more, but it's not based on getting enough to where I'm happy. It's based on, I love playing golf so much that I want to play the top 100 courses in America. And I've played however many of them. That's not enough. I want the most of them. But that's a positive thing. It's not doing something to ward off a feeling of not being enough. See the difference? It's coming out of passion. So we're not trying to prove anything here. We're living out passion and get rid of the judgment scales along the way.